Respected guests, the conference will be convened in a minute. Please turn your phone into the vibrant mode. Respected leaders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am Yang Lei, Director of Intelligent Manufacturing Security Lab, Hangzhou International Science and Innovation Center of Zhejiang University. Welcome to the first Global Digital Ecosystem Conference 2022. The topic for this afternoon is digital globalization. As we have known that now the manufacturing in China is faced with the difficulties in transformation. With the 5G industrial internet and the big data is coming, they have provided new solutions to the upgrade of our industries. So I would like to share my insights into the 5G plus industrial internet and its development. Currently, as we all know, that China's manufacturing is faced with a series of problems. One of the major problems lies in the policy markets and the customerized requirements. They brought with us a lot of uncertainties. Back in 2017, because the environmental protection problems, we are faced with a huge problems in supply chain. I was working for a listed company back then and in charge of the marketing. I could feel back then that during July and August, we worked for a very long time, and in 3 and 4 in the afternoon, we had to see how many suppliers were still working and what kind of customers they were. During the 2018 and 2019, we are faced with the trade war between China and the United States. With the escalation of the trade war, the foreign trade of China and its interest rate is on the rise. So back then, I was still working in one of the manufacturers. And during the May 2019, I visited Thailand to do some field trip with my team. So in March 2020, I had a project there. While back in May 2019, many automobile manufacturers were actually arranging their plants or manufacture factories. So when we move forward to 2020, we were deeply impacted by the COVID-19. So in the past 3 years, with the development of our economy, we are actually faced with a lot of uncertainties. Such kind of uncertainties have caused challenges and pressures on the manufacturing from its capacities plan, investment plan, etc. So now, many businesses began to talk about the stability and the flexibility of the supply chain. So back then, we are learning from Toyota's GIT. We kept saying that we need a zero stock. Whether it is a good choice or not is still imbalance. So perhaps someone may argue that we need some cushion at some critical point because the risks. Meanwhile, we also have realized that China is faced with a high cost of the manufacturing, and it is still rising. Last year, in some forums, I remarked that the price in the raw materials have increased by 10 to 20%. Some said that higher than that, perhaps 50% higher. Even doubled. The cost have been doubled last year for some companies, while the end price in general is still declining. So this year, I talked with one of the top 3 automobile spare parts procurement. He said that this is the first year they began to increase their cost when they are negotiating the price or doing the pricing with their customers, increased by 1%. So all in all, the manufacturing industry is faced with a shrinking net room for net profits. Some annual reports of the listed company have shown that many automobile manufacturers have created relatively lower revenue, while the net profit was actually 50 to 60% lower than before. So this is the pain point for the manufacturing. And we are also faced with understaffed problem. Back in 2013, I worked for a German company. So back then in China, the labor cost was around 9% among the whole cost. While for German, its labor cost is as high as 11%, worth 11%. So nearly 10 years have passed, but the labor cost increased a lot in China. So when we were quoted this to IEM, we can see the labor cost of Chinese products is not necessarily lower than that of other countries, including Korea or Germany. The truth is that our cost perhaps is higher than companies from the Korean companies. So all in all, China's manufacturing industry is faced with pressure of upgrading and transformation. While for the entrepreneurs, the digital transformation is a big challenge. As we have seen, we can feel that the digital transformation is not a choice, but a must-do thing. But when they are faced with whether we really need to invest into this, they are faced with one question. That is, when they look around, the digital transformation may be realized in just a few of the enterprises. But once you have already made it, you are faced with a large amount of investment. While in China, when we are transforming digitally, it involves the enterprise strategy, equipment or facilities, as well as the market. It is a comprehensive matter. But China is not ready for a comprehensive transformation in terms of the talents. We can see they have the CIO-driven factors for many manufacturing industries. Information and technology departments have always been a supporting one. It is not playing a driving force in most enterprises. We also lack of the stability of the comprehensive talents. We can see some big or giant companies have enrolled some framework architectures in head of their digital transformation action plan. But once he or she had already had the framework, he may be hunted by another competitive or rivals. So the stability of the staff or the talents is another question. The third is the customized demands from the market. It is still on the surge. One of the companies say that they can produce over 150,000 different types of models with one chain or manufacturing chain. Back in March or April this year in Wuxi, Jiangsu province, we can see the Volkswagen the size. They have made some breakthrough. They said that their statistics is not as profitable as other automobile manufacturers. But they said that we only produce five prototypes of the cars. But we can see that they divide those cars into different kinds of categories. They used big data to analyze the equipment and the assembly line. This is also a very nice choice to be more flexible for us. The trend has suggested that the whole manufacturing will go into two extremes. The first one is the super massive production, because they do not target it at the customized. When they are not targeted at that, they will have put them on a platform-style production, while when it catered to the customer's specific requirements, it will be more tailored. So we have these two directions. How can I flip this slide? There's one button there. So now, more and more of us, of this generation, are faced with many opportunities as well as difficulties, because the technological transformation is a brand new thing for us, which cannot be imagined by our father's generation. Especially many new type enterprises, their prospects is better than those giant companies. For example, Salesforce, it is the revenue of it is like 129.5 billion. It is 1/3. Its revenue is half of that of Oracle. While back in November 2021, Salesforce's market value is 303 billion US dollars, which is higher than Oracle. So Salesforce was just half of the revenue was just half of that Oracle, while its market value is higher than that. Tesla is another example. This year, it hit on the 1.3 trillion US dollars, while now this has been halved. This figure has been halved. While its revenue is way lower than that of Toyota, but its market value is higher than Toyota and Honda combined. So Nextra Energy's revenue was only 1 out of 10 of that of Mobil, but its market value is quite high. So in the era of our time, it is beyond our imagination whether there will be a new technology or new trend, whether we will have another WeChat or another Alibaba to change the manufacturing ways. Now, we can see that China was back in 2013 to 2014 promoting a German mode in manufacturing. Our focus was how can we use digitalization to improve the manufacturing and the internal management of the factories so that we can improve the efficiency of our manufacturing. Now we are talking about industrial internet nowadays. The popular understanding of this is it is about the industrial interconnection. It interconnects all the personnel, raw material systems, and facilities into one and integrated into a connected system and provide with us the whole industry chain, supply chain. So we believe that Internet of Industrial is a new type of technical facility or equipment. It should serve the internal and external management of the company as well as the whole life cycle of the products. The core of these projects of such kind is not lying in its value of its system. It lies more in whether it is conducive to the resource allocation. If with a very simple Internet of Industrial application, you can connect and select those information flow into a more transparent and faster manner. We believe it is a quite outstanding project in this regard. And the Internet of Industry is also featured with its abilities to integrate IT's development into a lower threshold. Digitalization requires comprehensive capacity. So when we are manufacturing, we are promoting the digitalization, and we need to address one problem, that is the informationalization and the automation integration. We can see the equipment department or IT departments have different opinions, and they may yield different results on one single questions. So they cannot have the mutual understanding of each other. So with the Internet of Industrial and the microservice technologies, it is possible for us to streamline the IT programming process for those who have the know-how of industry. With only 1 week or even shorter than that period, they can do the architecture of their own structure to develop the app, which is quite suitable for their own company's internal management. And we believe it is a very good and outstanding features of Internet of Industry, and serves this industry chain and to help them to realize the transformation and upgrade of the whole industry. While the 5G, compared with the 4G, is outstanding in 3 parts. The first one is that it is using the first division. With the 5G and MEC's structure, we can reach the 7 millisecond level. So with some large bandwidth technologies, we are going to achieve this. For example, 5G plus AR or 5G plus VR. So using those industrial vision to help the industries to improve the capacity. At the same time, it also can provide the large connection to those industrial companies. Back then, we can see that in the factories, they use the Wi-Fi to connect those large equipments, and sometimes the connection will be cut. Once you have used the 5G technology, such kind of problems can be addressed. With the 5G's technology and related technologies, the more and more connections will be possible, because the connectivity capacities and the integration capacities of industrial internet can be brought into a full play. So when we're talking about industrial application, we're talking about automation, process automation, or the logistics and the warehousing automation. Now, based on 5G technology, we can plus it with AI, big data, and cloud computing, and cloud PLC to realize the systematic control of the whole park. So this can help us to realize the low-cost manufacturing and the connectivity. So when we are talking about 5G, which is promoted by the ministries of China, so with the edge calculation or data acquisition, as well as the calculation analysis and analysis of AI application of industrial internet, we can finally help the enterprise to realize the digital transformation and upgrade. With such kind of applications and integration of technologies are aimed to realizing the coordinated innovation and the collective breakthrough to facilitate the integration of the supply chain. These are the very typical application of this 5G plus industrial internet. The first photos show the 5G plus AR. With AR glasses, people will not feel dizzy when they are looking at this. And with AR glasses, you can see the real-time data of your equipment and to spot some problems. The second picture shows the 5G plus AI. We can do some examinations on the automobiles to reduce the floors and to save the personnel. With 5G technology, we will have the cloud edge coordination. For example, in factory, you have 10 production lines working together. Then your computing capacities are arranged in the cloud and an MEC side. So in the MEC side, the computing capacities will be enhanced. With more practice and more data acquisition, it will be better to reach the optimization and to improve its accuracy and definition. Well, the next picture shows the 5G plus robot inspection to help the enterprises to save more personnel and labors in this regard. With some computing and algorithm of 5G, people can supervise whether the employees are doing something not related to the work. For example, listening to music, etc. So once those problems were spotted, the robot will go around to the position and to collect the problems to reduce the time of processing those problems. Also, we have 5G plus AGV and 5G plus flexible manufacturing. Traditionally, those clothing manufacturers, they will use the traditional system, while with flexible manufacturers, they now can adopt another mode, that is use the AGV. People can just operate these machines or equipments, and based on the algorithm, those equipment will go to those workers and to based on the data to realize the flexible manufacturing. So this has provided a new path for the flexible manufacturing. On the right corner, that is the 5G plus cloud PLC. The application is quite popular in Ningbo port and the Tianjin port, with the MEC plus 5G and connecting with its PLC. So those traditional drivers of those internal truck or grand tree crane can work in a safer condition. That is, those drivers will sit in the control room, and with some remote control, they can just control this internal truck and the gantry crane. The safety or security issues can be resolved, and the whole control competence have been improved. At the same time, because of 5G's connections, it has been laid out in those edge calculation, so more AI algorithms can be integrated into this. This is another example used in the spare parts. We have this practice to see those algorithms, whether it will be working. So we take these indicators into consideration. We can see the grinding time, which have been decreased because of the typical application of 5G plus industrial internet. With the AI algorithm, we can predict in real time its final size and to see whether it will have the difference in size. Once the difference has been spotted, we will stop it immediately. At the same time, we can see that we are using the 5G plus the industry of internet, and the whole world is doing this. The Qualcomm and Bosch-Rogowska back in 2019, they are using the 5G plus TSN. Because 5G is an internet with uncertainty. With ISN, it will be more stable and certain. So in industrial scenarios, we require more certainties. So with 5G plus TSN in the manufacturing lines, the industrial manufacturing's application are having more possibilities. Now the 5G applications nowadays are usually doing some surrounding work or supporting work. 5G plus AR, 5G plus AGV, they are more about logistics. Once the 5G plus TSN technology, they will play a bigger role in the core of the manufacturing line. Audi and Verizon are also doing some attempts. In 2024, they are going to introduce 5G connection to Audi's production line and to improve the connectivity based on the 5G technology to realize the faster streaming. So with the 5G and its future development trend, the bandwidth will be larger with some cloud application. For example, the cloud computing, it will definitely bring us a change. Many ends nowadays require the computing capacities. Once we have realized this and the fast connectivity and the large bandwidth, the calculation is focused on the edge calculation, and we can see a quite obvious change, that is the end computing requirements will be slimmed. Once the end computing capacities have been slimmed, they can realize the lower cost, and at the same time, it will be easier for you to have to install the equipment as well as to reduce the cycle.
So with the 5G and the industrial internet development, so we talk to many different companies. And the people always say that as now we are going through an intense stage of digital transformation. So when they have like OA or MS or some other digital transformations, so actually the practice today is different. So as now we are going to we have greater momentum in this area, we are going to see what kind of business scenarios we have. And based on business flow, we have to understand what is the mechanism. And so the difference today is in the consumer internet, maybe they just need some data, and we have to focus the consumers, what are their habits, what are the consumption habits. Maybe we have a 80% prediction rate, that would be good enough. But for industrial internet, so 95% of the prediction rate. So maybe that is not good enough for industrial scenarios. So we have to understand what are the mechanisms so that make sure it is reasonable. So we can have a higher accuracy in our prediction or in other decision makings. And as we understand the trend in 5G and the industrial internet, everything is connected. So we have to understand what's going on in the supply chain, and for the system, and we have to break the silo. Previously, we have a lot of fluctuations, and we have to consider what are the changes in the policy, what's going on in the market, and there can be some different results. But for the industry internet, as we are working on the whole chain, we are going to see the data are shared in a quicker way, and if we have some signal at the front end, we are able to tell the back end what are the impact. In this way, we can help enterprises to arrange their production schedules, to dispatch their products, to make more reasonable plan for their products. So generally speaking, the supply chain will be secure and stable. And the last trend I'm going to talk about is, as I just said, we are going to work out what is the best mechanism. But in the industry world, we have to see. So if we want to have a raw material, we're going to use 10 milligrams or 100 milligrams. We have to be very accurate, and we have to see what is a benchmark. If we are going to have like 10 milligrams, maybe finally we have a 9.5 or 9.8, but it cannot be 100. That goes too far. So we have to understand what is a benchmark criteria for industrial scenarios. And based on the mechanism model, we have AI analysis. The other thing is, based on the industrial results, we have very fast iteration. Because in China, in some areas, China is a late mover compared with some other countries. For example, I studied and worked in Germany for a long time. I have some observation. So in China, when we talk about industrial application, I would say there are a lot we should learn from Western countries. So if we are going to leverage the advantage of late removers, we are going to have more industry internet and digital development. So in the past, we have a lot of observation, and we see what are the problems, and then we make improvement. But now, based on digitalization and the industrial network, we can collect the data every 0.1 seconds, and we can compare different data. So we are able to see. So you are going to see or identify more problems or sense more issues that previously it is invisible, because in this way you can have a big picture. You are going to see the overall situation, and that will lead to higher efficiency. And also in China, we are famous for hard working. That's why I think there is a great potential for China's manufacturing to have a bigger success. That's all for my speech. And in the global trade structure in the 21st century, especially after the financial crisis in 2008, there are some changes. The trade in services has been increasing, and the digital trade is gaining more momentum. So next, I will invite the MIT's CTL Ningbo Center Director of Strategy and Development, Mr. Wu Changnong. So he is an expert for cross-border supply chain platform in China and in the US. He has great experience in digital logistics platform. So he is going to share with us how to build competitiveness for cross-border supply chain in the digital age. Welcome, Mr. Wu. So thank you, moderator. So first, I have to say sorry, because I can see all of you have bilingual presentations, but my presentation is only in Chinese language. So I hope our translators can get this message to our foreign audience. So today we talk about, in the digital age, how can we build a competitive supply chain? And just now, last speaker shared a lot of insight on supply chain. So I'm going to also share some of my observations. So first I will introduce my organization. So I come from Ningbo Supply Chain Management Center. So actually it is a collaboration between MIT in the US and the Ningbo government. We started in 2016, and that is the only institute co-built by MIT and the Chinese government. So we focus on supply chain. It covers research, academia, and industry applications. So we also cover the management, engineering, entrepreneurship, financial, and smart manufacturing. So in 2016, the Wall Street Journal reported our program, because this means MIT is incorporating the supply chain development into its landscape. So we're also part of the MIT Global Scale Network. In this network, so it's about the global supply chain and the logistics. It has 6 centers in Luxembourg, in Zaragoza, in Spain, and in China, in Kuala Lumpur, and in Ningbo. So there are 2 centers in Asia. And in Boston, we have where the MIT headquartered, and in Bogota, in Colombia, in South America. So from this map, you can see we have 6 centers. This is a global network for science research and teaching. So we have 6 teaching centers, more than 100 professors, and we are collaborating with 150 companies, and all of them are international companies. We have strategic collaboration, and we have more than 10 teaching programs. So right now, we have degree programs, we have industry and academia collaboration, and also we have executive training programs. So today, there are 4 parts in my presentation. The first one is I'm going to see in our era there were so many changes and transformations, and today we have to see what are the change in the trade structure, and also today we talk about the digital trend, how it affects the supply chain. And after explaining those background, we're going to discuss how to build competitiveness in cross-border supply chain. So I will explain these 4 areas one by one. The first one is times of change. So when we talk about change, so I want to mention this person. So do you recognize this person? So from this picture, so this is a statesman in China in the 19th century. So he made some remarks about the necessity of developing the shipbuilding industry in China. He also said build a defense line in the maritime sector is important. And he mentioned many times that these are changes unseen in centuries. So he is Li Hongzhang, a statesman in the 19th century. And when he said we are dealing with changes unseen in centuries, it is true. It's like a paradigm shift. And in today's world, actually, we can still feel what he said more than 100 years ago. So this is from Ray Dalio, the founder of Bridgewaters. So he made this picture, the rise and fall of the changing world order. So just now, so I just showed Li Hongzhang's picture that is more than 100 years ago. That is the existing power, the blue line, and also we have a black power on this picture. So that is about the change. Why we talk about the change, we have to consider what are the factors that are driving the change. Only in that way we can understand whether we are making a correct decisions or not, because we can only analyze what happened in the past so that we can have a better forecast of the future. So more than 100 years ago, so we can use a STEEP model to analyze what happened. So for society, technology, economy, environment, and the politics. So there are changes in all these areas. For example, the demographic structure, I believe you can see there are a lot of changes. And the technologies, today we have a lot of discussion about digital transformation, digital technologies, life science, or infrastructure, and the economy. So you can see that the interest rate from the banks. There are a lot of fluctuation recently, and in the Feds and in China's banking industry, there are some anti-cyclical environment. So all those are big challenges for our production and the environment. COVID-19. So it has been 3 years. We have a lot of control measures for COVID-19, and also there are wars. So there is a Russian-Ukraine war for the grain, for the food, for some of the commodities and the manufacturing. All these are big challenges for the supply chain. So the picture on the left bottom is the global uncertainty index. So and the other trend is from Chicago University. So for the technology of human race, ever since the World War I, we can see there are we can see this purple curve went up quickly because in the last 100, 200 years, we have some major challenges. And today, we also have some major challenges. And if we put them on this scale to analyze the environment of changing, I believe this is relevant with what we talk today. And the other thing is, so in times of change, so we have to look at the paradigm shift. This picture is a very good one. In 1894, in the U.S., there was a crisis, horse manure crisis. So by that time, in the U.S., so there were so many horse cut in the U.S. People tried to reduce the horse manure on the streets. So it was a crisis. If people don't take action, so people were worried that by 1930, the whole city will be buried in piles of manure. So that is because by that time people don't know what will happen in the future. So they just based on there were so many horse carts, they worried about too much manures. But from the right picture, you can see in the Fifth Avenue in New York, that is a paradigm shift in New York. So you can see there are two cars in year 1900. So about 6 years after the horse manure crisis, you can see there are changes on the streets. And 13 years later, in 1913, you can see the Fifth Avenue in New York. So on the streets, actually just the two horse carts on the street of New York. So from this comparison, you can see there are some. So if you only focus on reducing the horse manure, I think is not in alignment with the changes. So you have to watch out what's going on. Otherwise, you don't have the most efficient solution. So that is the first part of my presentation. So in this dynamic, volatile era, how can we build resilience in our supply chain? And the second one is the trade structure changes. So there are two major factors for change. The first one is about the trade structure. From this picture, actually I just showed this picture a few minutes ago. So after the completion of the Cold War in 1990s, the global uncertainty index has been rising. After the trade war in 2018 and also the COVID-19 outbreak by the end of 2019, all those brought significant uncertainties. And now we have a Russian-Ukraine war and we have a COVID-19 control measures. So all these are big impact to the demand, to the supply chain. And actually on the supply side and on the demand side, they are also suffering, they are both suffering big challenges. When we had, in the early stage of COVID-19 outbreak, so the purchasing power from the Western countries were not so good. But later, in Asia, because of the COVID-19 control measures, the manufacturing facilities in Asia was affected. So there was more challenge to supply chain. The other thing is this morning in the main forum, we talk about in Europe. So populism is gaining great momentum. It's almost the highest time since World War II. From these two pictures, you can see the populism sovereignty. So they are gaining more foothold in Europe. And the war between Russia and Europe is kind of a phenomenon because of this populism. And also there were some changes in the immigration policies. And the other thing is the U.S. And because China has a lot of export to the U.S., so actually U.S. has many people in U.S. manufacturing has lost a job. From 1990, and they started to lose jobs. And by 2001, China joined the WTO. And because China exported a lot to the U.S., American manufacturing has lost about 1.5 million job opportunities. And in 2021, the Biden government talked about to rebuild the competitiveness in America's supply chain is a report, more than 70 pages. And it was quite straightforward. For the core industries in the U.S., semiconductor, medical, or photovoltaic, U.S. is going to have more protection so that they can have a good competition with China.
Another one is that back in 2018, in China, they have issued a document to ensure their supply chain stability. So we provide some policy recommendations from the perspectives of security. So both China and the United States, in terms of the competition of supply chain, is escalated. Another one is 2 or 3 years ago, we may talk about the trade war between China and the United States. It perhaps will give a heavy blow to China's commodity trade. From the Trump administration to Biden administration, they adopted policies which were inherently consistent. From this table, we can see in 2008, they have the Section 301 bill. This bill is directly imposed the tariffs on import from China. So the imports from China to the United States have been was reduced to a certain extent. Well, back in 2019, after the pandemic, the proportion of China's imports to the United States increased. That was because China's productivity was and the capacity are still in a good shape because of China's pandemic response. While in 2020, this ratio lowered. That was against this backdrop and the whole change of the great landscape. When we were in Ningbo, we communicated with those foreign traders. We found they have some irresistant factors. This is the table to show the tariffs changes from the United States on China's imports. We can see that in October 2020, the United States were still reviewed the Bill 301's impact and effectiveness of China's imports. So around the 2021, we have some tariff-free agreement or treaty, but it covered just little of those categories of commodities. In particular, in the energy industry, manufacturing industries, they have some labor protections. Based on the specific policy effectiveness, they made decisions. be it Trump's administration or Biden's administration, their policies were quite consistent. So in terms of China-U.S. trade, it can foreseen. This one is more about the global trade, the Balkanization of the global trade. Though Balkan is a quite debatable place, so we can see that the Balkanization can find its way in the global trade. So around 2018, trade among different regions have been reduced with the change of comparative advantages. Back in 2015, the trade volume, inter-regional trade volume, have rebounded a little bit. Now we have the ASEP and the EU-China BIT and the China-Japan ROK-FTA. The inter-regional cooperation is gaining momentum, including the TPP, oriented by the United States, and the USMCA and the TTIP. The whole trend is that the inter-regional trade, while brought into a full play, and under the framework of WTO's trade, will occupy a lower ratio. Another, we can see that in China and the Southeast Asia, ASEP, have some overlapping countries with the TPP's members. So for the whole Southeast Asia's trade, it have been enhanced. Its position have been enhanced since 2021. The Vietnam's export to the United States is keeping rising, while in 2022, back in November, the export volume is totaled over 119.35 billion US dollars. So it is promoting the trade of different countries. I mean, the inter-regional trade cooperation. So against this backdrop, the global trade is in a quite positive one. And since China's accession to WTO, the global trade is working or active under the framework of the WTO. Well, against the backdrop nowadays, because of the political, security, and economic factors, the global trade is towards an inter-regional trade landscape, including in European and regions, the North America with the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and China's inner cycle. So this is the structural changes of China's trade in the future. Once we have already known the structural changes, another thing is the impact of digitalization. Digitalization should radically change our trade from the delivery mode and the interaction mode. With the trade globalization, the cost of the trade have been differentiated or diffused for 3 times. Before globalization, we did have the transportation, so the transportation cost was the highest. So with now those maritime transportation or the continental transportation was carried by at a quite high level. While since the first industrialization, we experienced the second diffusion, that is the cost of communication. With the information technology development and the reform revolution, the cost of communication has been lowered because the traditional fax or email or telegraphs communication have been replaced. And so this is the second division or differentiation. So those producers will directly get in touch with those consumers or clients. So after the second differentiation, we are experiencing the digital technology revolution. So it directly connects the manufacturers with the end consumers. So this is the third differentiation. So before this, when we are participating in the global trade, the possibility for individual was quite low. For example, if we are going to attend a fair, we may refer to the Canton Import and Export Fair, and to do some trade negotiations. Nowadays, we have the e-commerce platforms in China. An inland city in China can directly connect with three or fourth tiers of the American cities and to do the trade. So against this backdrop, be it the technology's development of digitalization, it has reduced the cost of the whole industry. So our individuals or micro or small-sized companies can be involved into those activities. Once the cost has been lowered, the entity of our trade will be fragmented. Another trend is that we can see for the companies with the digitalization, the structure of the companies are experiencing certain kind of restructurings. When we do not have the front end, the trade between companies are realized through the cross-border network. Now we have the end-to-end interaction. So we have a platform company, and more individuals through this company, through these platforms, will be able to participate in this trade activity. So this, after pandemic, the offline departments of the United States, its revenue has lowered by 14%, while China has seen a increase. Well, the logistic landscape, the traditional one is a linear interaction between the seller and the buyer. Now, based on a platform-style logistics, the sellers and the buyers, because of the fragmentation, are more connected. So finally, this is a platform of supply chain between our customers, be it Amazon or Alibaba. Their fulfillment center are surrounded with a platform and platform of the supply chain. So these are experiencing radical change, including the service trade platform. With the digitalization, the service trade is increasing its proportion or share in the global trade. Another one is the smiling curve. It is more steep. So when the traditional companies are making advantage of the research and R&D and the production, the profits and the value will be gained in a better way.
So next, I'm going to talk about the supply chain. Just now, we have some guests and also the moderator to talk about the supply chain. So we talk about supply chain all the time, but sometimes people are not clear about the definition. So to explain simply, so if for a company, they have to deal with the need from the customers or consumers, and from the industrial scale, we have to see. So your customer may have a customer, and your supplier may have a supplier. So if you are going to extend your supply chain to upstream and downstream, it will be very complicated. So the real scenario supply chain is very complicated. The picture on the right side is from the Nova Group. There are more than 6,000 Tier 1 and Tier 2 suppliers. So supply chain, sometimes they are not transparent. And just now I talk about the special effect. So with all the changes going on, and since the demand is unpredictable and there are so many things that are not under control, I believe the supply chain will be even more complicated. So for enterprises, so in the digital era, in this smiling curve, it will be more steep. For brands or for marketing side, for example, production and manufacturing and R&D, we are going to focus more on this area because it will be instrumental for competitiveness. The other thing is about the two sides of this chain. So if you don't have very good control, then you are going to be a long-tail enterprise in this section. And the other thing is, in China, we have some early mover advantage. We have very complete technical categories, and we have a large population, and we have a large number of qualified engineers. That makes us in a very good position. And the other thing is the resilience in supply chain. And this picture, you can see, before the outbreak of COVID-19, Chinese experts doesn't really pay a lot of attention to the resilience of supply chain because resilience and efficiency, sometimes it is in contradiction. If you are going to build stronger resilience, you need more investment, more information system, and more inventory. But if you want higher efficiency, as the moderator just said, in Toyota, they have a JIT structure. Their target is zero inventory. However, in this volatile period, if the supply chain is interrupted, it will be a big trouble. So in 2020, there were so many interruptions to the supply chain. And also to end-to-end supply chain, we have to consider what are the influencing factors from the demand to the production. This chain actually is not so transparent. From end users and between end users and the factories, there are so many information barriers. So if you're going to have a digital transformation, how to break the barriers in informationalization, there are so many things we have to deal with. And for supply chain, there are so many risks. And actually, for every company, they are in a complicated environment. But so to manage all these risks, so we have to consider, actually, there are 7 levels of impact. And whenever we have a new kind of risk for the enterprise or for the supply chain, we are going to see what stage it is. When we build our supply chain, when we talk about resilience, we have to do a good work of mapping. And for resilience of supply chain, we have a conclusion. So there are many risks, and we have to map all these risks so that the risks at the end of the supply chain, we can mitigate the risk. So that's all. That's my presentation. Thank you. So thank you, Professor Wu. So you talk about in this period of change, how it changed the structure of trade and how to deal with the impact and so that we have to change our structure and the form of trade so that we can build a better supply chain cross-border. So it's very insightful. So as we are dealing with COVID-19 in the global e-commerce market, also the growth rate is slowing down, but we still have a lot of opportunities. For China's cross-border companies, how can we secure an advantage point? So next, let's invite the COO of Lianlian International, Shen Enguang. So he used to be the international vice president of Lianlian Group. He was responsible for the international finance and the foreign exchange and the banking collaboration. So he's going to share with us how to leverage global technology in China's payment and collection. So good afternoon. So I'm delighted to attend this meeting. So I'm from Lianlian Technology. I'm going to talk about digital technology enables hassle-free global payment. So we are a Zhejiang company. So this conference is a world-class platform. So we are happy to have this conference in Zhejiang. So first I will talk about the cross-border e-commerce market. So because of COVID-19, Actually, in the last 1 or 2 years, we have changed a lot of our habits in our consumption and in our life. In the past, we have a lot visit to offline shopping malls, but after COVID-19, many people shop online. In China, actually, for many years, the e-commerce consumption growth has been robust, and actually Chinese consumers, many people get used to shop online. But for foreign countries, especially in Western countries, many people still get used to shop offline. So now that COVID is affecting the supply chain, and also for the people flow and the goods flow, we can see the e-commerce market is actually getting stronger. So the global e-commerce market is more than $5 trillion US. So actually a few years ago, in Southeast Asia, in RCEP, we have ASEAN countries are #1 partner for China, so it is also a very big number in 2021. It's already a huge market. And in the post-COVID-19 era, I would say there was some impact to e-commerce, but from this data we can see in 2021, the e-commerce consumption accounts for more than 20% in global retail. And in 2025 and 2026, it will be more than $7 trillion US or 8 trillion US. And let's look at the YoY growth. In 2021, it's 17.1% growth, but in 2021, it will be less, 9.7%. And in the next few years, it will be around 10% or 9%. So because of COVID-19, I think it changed people's consumption habits. So the e-commerce will have a robust growth. Actually, this growth rate is higher than the GDP growth in many countries, or CPI growth, or PPI growth. So in my group, we provide some products and services, and I will also share what is China's position on the challenge in the global landscape from our perspective. So we are a Chinese company. So when China started reform and opening up, many foreign countries are looking for factories in China. So we have a lot of OEM and ODM. And now we can see many factories have products with their own brands. They do design and by themselves. In the past, they do a lot of B2B, which means they just collaborate with a business in foreign countries. But in the future, maybe they will sell to consumers directly. So there are many people they are going to decide whether they work on B2B or B2C or B2B2C. And in this picture, we have some questions for traditional companies with the upgrading of digitalization, and also as COVID-19 changed our consumption habits. So for traditional companies, are they going to transform? Or some companies, they are already in cross-border e-commerce. So do they have to do some innovation in their brand promotion overseas? I believe many of the exporters, they are thinking about this one. So they have to make a decision whether they will transform their business or not. Maybe they have to upgrade their digital system and embrace the changes. So now, for traditional foreign companies, there are so many transformations. In the past, because people have no idea visiting each other, sign contracts offline, or have face-to-face communication. So that in the past, they seize all the opportunities. However, COVID-19 make a lot of communication not so convenient. So how to use digital methodologies to expand the sales channels or access a greater consumer group. So this is a question for all the traditional companies. And the Chinese government actually is providing strong support. For example, foreign exchange, the government is issuing better policies, and there is some digital transformation in the customs. And for many countries and for many areas in China, we have free trade pilot zones that will be facilitating the logistics and export. Apart from that, we can see many foreign companies. So they are using platforms or such as social media, such as TikTok or WhatsApp. So all these social media will help them to reach a greater consumer group. So for digital transformation of these enterprises, I think they should be more proactive. And for the Chinese brands to go global, especially at the end of last year, because for some major platforms, they changed the policy. So the cross-border business in China, they have to think about the next steps. So cross-border business actually now came to a new milestone, independent platforms. Traditionally, when we have B2B, we have OEM, OBM, and for independent platforms or cross-border merchants, so in the past, the people will just will do their business on Amazon or Shopee or Lazada to reduce risk. And because those big platforms will help them to reach more potential consumers and the business. So after they get a good revenue, they think about whether they should build their own brand and platform. And since they already have some experience in an overseas market, they are going to make their brands more distinctive, and they are going to make their products more appealing to the young consumers. There are some new media, they have good products, and because the young generation, they use a lot of social media. For cross-border veterans, they always think about how to expose to the younger generation. So this is a clear trend. So we are a fintech company. So in this digital wave, how can we help Chinese companies to go global? Some of the Chinese companies, they have production, sales, or product design and quality control. They are very good, but maybe financially speaking, they are not an expert. And also, different countries have different rules, and the different places in China also have different practice. So for Chinese companies to go global, apart from the production and the sales, maybe they need more support on the financial solutions. In the cross-border logistics chain, maybe they don't know what kind of risks they are, and they need a service provider to mitigate the risk. So for Lian, so when we help Chinese companies to go global, what we did, the first one is with all the major e-commerce platforms, we have some. So we have a lot of collaboration. We have some of the direct financial collaboration. Because of the digitalization, we have a big difference with traditional foreign trade. Many of the information flow are on the platform. They are stored digitally. So in this process, it will go through many countries. So how can we make them more efficient, convenient, and low cost, so that we can meet the regulation requirements in different countries, and for the customers, they want to use their money more efficiently. So that's what we do. We collaborate with the major e-commerce platforms. When our customers are selling their products, we can get some information about their orders, and we can provide good solutions. So So anti-money laundering or some other things we can do for them. Globally speaking, we have some programs. We help Chinese companies to go global. So Amazon is the biggest cross-border e-commerce. So we have very good collaboration with Amazon. So people, if they use our platform, they can just run their service on Amazon and they can collect the money from our platform. We are official supplier of Amazon, and also for Shopee, we are an official partner. Now in Southeast Asia, apart from Shopee, we are connecting with other platforms such as Lazada. And after Southeast Asia, there are some popular areas such as Latin America. In Brazil, we collaborate with Latin America's biggest platform, Mercado Libre. So all this helps Chinese companies to sell products in local platforms and make sure they can collect money to their Chinese bank account. In Europe, we also collect many platforms. So EU is a region, but every country has different consumption habits and different product categories and different e-commerce platforms. So we are collaborating with the major e-commerce platforms in Europe. For cross-border sellers, in the past, they just sell on Amazon, but now, so if they are going to expand their online sales market, they want to have a place on different platforms and to have more sales resources. That's what we do. We help these Chinese companies. So we are providing a lot of services for them.
Currently, perhaps Lilian is not a very household name to all of you, but it's actually a very large payment company, different from the WeChat and Alipay. They focused on the C end, customer end. We focused on the business end. Lilian Global, the tools, our payment tools, is one of the most frequently used by our sellers. We cooperated with a foreign company as the first foreign China joint ventures in China in terms of the payment. We can see some Union Pay symbol on the credit card or those bank card. Lilian is cooperating with a large company from the United States, which is also a landmark in the cooperation between China and the United States in this regard, to run the business in terms of the cleaning, clearing, and the settlement of those international payments. Now we are we boast over 16 license and certifications of payment. Our aim is to focus on compliance. So in many countries, if you are not licensed, you cannot run some business there. At the same time, once you are licensed, you can have the business service, payment business service, and also can help your customers to run in a more efficient way in terms of payment and collection. Now we have finished the trade volume over 6.5 trillion, service over 1.5 million global merchants. And also want to talk about the license. Why? Because before, in our personal business, we can hear the SWIFT as a way of delivery. SWIFT is a traditional telegraph network infrastructure for international payments. Many banks in China are trying to using the SWIFT and to send the American branches so that they can be more capable of international payments. And while for other small and medium-sized banks, they may sign some contracts with local banks. So to using their abilities of cleaning locally to realize the transfer of the money. For example, you are going to pay in dollar via a bank in China in dollar. It's actually the money was transferred from the domestic bank to United States in middle bank and then back to China's bank. So this can reflect one phenomenon that for a payment company, if they are going to do the international settlement, license matters most. So Lianlian Global is one of the two companies to host all the licenses in the United States. United States will issue those licenses as a federal one as the umbrella, but you have to get the license state by state because each state has their own laws and regulations. We're also very honored that we are the first one and a unique one in Thailand to be licensed as a Chinese company. So when many merchants are using the trade, they will use some business including the cross-border payment service to solve the problems when they are contacting the customers and how can they get the money from the local account and get it into their own country's bank account. So Lianlian Global as the unique payment company in Thailand is actually a very unique, and we are behind those financial operations in those companies overseas. As a strategic direction, we take deep roots in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Singapore to be licensed to support the cross-border financing. At the same time, we also have the ISO certifications in terms of the compliance risks, because perhaps we are faced with the risks of international fraud or cross-border fraud, and also some inspections in terms of the market operation. So with those risk control models support and the stabilities of the system, the stability can be ensured, and we are quite confident in our stability. So we are talking about something that cross-border is doing when they are receiving money from the customers, or what kind of scenarios they may use this. First of all, they will have to connecting with the major e-commerce platforms to do the payment collection. The second is in the global trade payment collection, how can we realize the multi-currencies collection, as well as to provide the real-time exchange rate in the best way. And it is related to DTC. DTC is the dependent station. So the cross-borders may run this business, whether they use the tools or use their own models to have the resources. They have to solve the problem of how can they transfer the currency or the money to finish the cross-border transferring of the money and come back to the bank account. So we can see that we are cooperating with 6 banks, and we have more than 100 payment methods locally. So in Southeast Asia, we can see that hassle-free payment is quite popular. Those young people do not possess any credit cards or bank cards. Back then, traditionally they use cash. While in Latin American or European and American, this is not the case. In Latin American, they use the cards to pay as one of the most major trade method. While in Southeast Asia, without so many cards, we see that those e-payments and those newly emerging payment methods, the e-wallet is quite popular. And we can also see that buy first, pay after. So if we are doing these independent stations without taking into the market, local market, it is easier for us to miss the business opportunities. In Brazil, we can also see that many payment methods are realized through those 7-Eleven like shops, 7-Eleven style shops, convenient shops. So they are like the terminal or like a middleman of the payment. So many consumers, local consumers, they use the code bar as the proof of payment and to pay it in the convenience store. So in the Latin Americans, if you do not have the technology to support this, perhaps you will also miss some business opportunities. Next one is about the financing platforms. They have the real serious demand is the financing service. The cross-border companies are usually medium and small-sized companies. Among our customers, 95% of them are micro and small-sized companies. They have many financing ways nowadays, but in the interest regarding the scale and the amount of the capitals, they are not qualified or eligible for being a cross-border merchant. So for Lianlian Global, we use the data as the basis. The cross-border merchants, they can use this data, and this data include their trade sections, transaction records, and we will use with the 1 minute online application, they can get the money or the loan within 3 seconds. The next one is the exchange rate. Foreign exchange rate is quite a typical market this year. The foreign exchange currency markets, fluctuation is very high. Sometimes within 1 or 2 weeks, perhaps the fluctuation can as high as 5 to 600 to 1,000. Renminbi is in deep appreciation, and in the fluctuation, it is the two-way fluctuation or dual fluctuation. So the devalued RMB is at a large margin. So when those cross-border business need to pay attention to the risks in this regard. So for the internal business, domestic business, the risk is not so high, but the foreign exchange rate can also be a quite influential factor. So we should not be speculative. We need to have the faith in this market, this part of the market, this share of the market. So we can provide a 7/24 non-stop service for our customers. We can also entrust some of the services, and some of the clients, they can judge by themselves. So we suggested them use one of our another special service. So once they have already seen the profits there, they can just immediately make the decision and exit. The third one is the foreign exchange risk management. For those cross-border business, perhaps they are now adopting the currencies. So to do this risk management, they will have they may lack the control of their own foreign currencies usage. The fourth thing is the service on trade industrial solutions. They have the requirements for digitalization and digital transformation. So it has also more requirement for the products or product capabilities of Lianlian Global. So how can we help them to realize the acquiring, collection, management, fix, and payout?
So in Southeast Asia and in Latin America, actually, we are supporting many of the customers in a certain sector to go global. So for logistics, for the education, or some other applications, we can help our customers to access the foreign market. And we have so we collaborate with the Bank of American Express and also a Chinese bank. So we have a debit card. This is what we call Lianlian card. So with one Chinese renminbi bank account, they are going to collect payments from all over the world. So this is a renminbi card, but it has a logo of Bank of American Express. So this will help the customer to collect payment from all across border business. And because there are some payment requirements on Amazon or eBay, and this card works very well. And for our company and for some of our international partners, actually they also enjoy some of the American Express benefits, because this is some benefits for the high-end customers. So our vision, especially for China's e-commerce, I hope we can be the first choice. We are not only working on payment, we also provide some of the value-added services. For example, in technological level, so we have some data tools or big data or risk control models. So we can help some of our merchants to avoid fraud or some other risks in payment. We also, since we have good licenses and some technologies, we can help our customers to collect the money from a foreign country to China. So it will be efficient, it will be cost effective. One of our customers, so in the past, it takes about 2 or 3 days to collect the foreign payment, but with Lianlian, they can just arrive like in seconds or at least in 1 day. So we are going to leverage digital technologies to drive changes in payment. And I believe the global payment will be hassle-free with our technology. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shen, for your insightful presentation. So he talked about traditional foreign trade companies, what are their challenges and what kind of cross-border models they have. And in today's world, how can fintech help Chinese companies to go global? So Barcelona is building a digital city, and it is also one of the best foreign cities in Europe for investment. By 2030, Barcelona will be one of the main digital centers in Europe. So next speaker, Carlos, is a digital transformation and a technical expert in Catalonia government. So let's welcome Carlos to talk about the digital achievement and the development in Barcelona. Because of COVID-19, he could not come to Hangzhou, so we are going to hear his speech from a video.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Comara. I work for the regional government of Catalonia, and I'm very happy and honored to be here with you virtually this time. And I would like to share with you some digital strategies and projects that we have launched successfully in Catalonia. I have prepared some slides, so please let me switch to presentation mode. Digital development and achievement success of Catalonia, Barcelona. Catalonia is a region in Spain. It's a territory on the map, and its capital is Barcelona. Probably you already know Barcelona because of Gaudí architecture, or maybe because of the soccer club Barcelona. but also it has a very competitive economy based on industry. Let me show you some figures. We are 7.7 million inhabitants. It's similar to Switzerland and Austria, and more than Denmark and Finland. Our GDP is a bit more of 220,000 millions, greater than Portugal and Finland. And we have a strong trade links with other countries, and we export 66,000 million euros a year. That is a ratio of export similar to Denmark or Sweden. And I think it's very important, this thing is that nearly 20% of our gross asset value comes from the industrial sector. Today, I would like to explain to you some of the digital projects that we have supported from the government. They are these three: distributed ledger technology, also known as blockchain, 5G technology, and the new space strategy. First one, blockchain, or distributed ledger technology. In June 2019, the government of Catalonia approved the Catalonia blockchain strategy, with the aim of turning Catalonia into a leading country in the use and development of DLT technologies, which, applied to public administration, allows us to increase transparency, ensure citizens' confidence, and at the same time facilitates solution integration and strength. Thus, it is particularly suitable for the management of public services, as well as for implementing citizen participation processes. Some of the projects that are already underway at present, or that will be launched soon in the field of public administration, are as follows: digital identity, consent recalls, waste management and traceability, support in organ transplantations, enabling patient rights to that data donation, and support for energy transition. We know that we can use blockchain technology for various uses. Cryptocurrencies is the best known. But personally, I prefer other uses of this technology. For example, electronic notary, certification of identity, tracing, smart contracts, no-intermediary projects, tokens, the use of tokens in general, and in the last time, non-fungible token, NFTs. We have support different projects in different industries. This is an example of traceability. In the year 2019, the company Votum has developed a DLT-based traceable system for the Montsoriu agri-food company, devoted to the production of organic eggs. Thus, Montsoriu certifies to its customers the quality of its products, their freshness, proximity, and that they are indeed organic. This project demonstrates that also small companies as Votum, the technology provider, and Montsoriu, the egg producer, can use blockchain technology. Blockchain is not only for big companies. Also, small and medium companies can also take advantage of it. For example, here we have a few more projects. We have a lot of examples. And these three are just a sample. The first one is about the company BlockTag. They develop a project of fraud detection and reduction, actually. Freebase also is the second one. It's very interesting because we can apply it for the game sector. They have developed a blockchain digital access for online games. Freebase is developing a multiplayer football manager video game for Android and iOS, in which user assets, in that case means the teams, the soccer teams and the soccer players, evolve as they play. And then they can be traded in a fluid global market. Also in that case, the use of NFT plays a key role. And in the case of Finboot, they have implemented a smart contract system using blockchain technology for bank transactions. The results of Catalonia blockchain strategy has been very positive. In 2018, we identified 76 companies working with DLT that generated around 400 jobs. Now these numbers have increased significantly. You have to take into account that we are not comparing with China, of course. We are just a small region with only 7 million people, 7.7 million people. And as you can see, the DLT ecosystem in Catalonia is rich and diversified, with companies, but also communities. Also, we have international events and technology centers. Second project, 5G technology, one of my favorites. We all know that 5G is better technology than 4G. But now that you have 5G, what can we do with 5G that we couldn't with 4G? I will give you 5 seconds to think. Can you tell me only one example? It is not easy. More or less, we are doing the same things. The only thing that we have noticed a clear difference is in the ability to connect more devices, avoiding network saturations. That has increased the quality of services in big cities, and also the use of IoT, Internet of Things, for example, in the industry. But what more we could do with 5G? We have created a new entity called 5G Barcelona to discover new applications and test their usefulness in real environments. I am going to show you one of these projects. I have many more. So if you are interested in this topic, please contact me. Unfortunately, last past 2 years, due to the coronavirus, was not possible to hold music festival. Here in Barcelona, we have a 5th international music festival. But we in Barcelona tried a new way of experiencing festival using virtual reality. You can experience the feeling of being on stage with your favorite music group. Maybe this is the future, or maybe it will be a complementary way to go to the concert when it is not possible because maybe you are living in another city. It is not just a solution for the current context. We believe that in the close future, the music festival will be a hybrid experience. Let me show you a short video explaining this project. And in order to identify new 5G projects, in the city of Barcelona, we have launched 5 laboratories where companies from all over the world can come and test their new 5G application in a real environment. And one of the results of that has been the development of an economy or of an ecosystem of companies and entities related to 5G technology. Some of them are foreign companies that have ended up settling in Barcelona. And the third project that I would like to share with you is called New Space Strategy. The New Space Strategy is a priority for the government of Catalonia, which aims to support the deployment of this new space economy in order to make Catalonia a pole of innovation, leadership, and attraction for talent companies in the field of space technology sector. Past year, in March the 20th, we launched our first nanosatellite, and we hope to launch another one this year. This technology will provide us with more information about our territory and enable us to manage it better. Also, we will be able to be proactive when addressing adverse climate and weather phenomena, and to have uniform IoT and 5G coverage all over the territory. By now, we have 2 projects. First one, IoT connectivity. The nanosatellite developed by the company Sateliot will deploy services of global connectivity of Internet of Things. That is to say, it will enable communication and data obtaintion from sensors located throughout the territory, even in areas that are difficult to access or that do not have coverage of conventional terrestrial telecommunication networks. Some of its applications will be monitoring of river flow and water reserves, also monitoring and protecting wildlife, and reception of meteorological data of stations located in remote places. The second project is about Earth observations. We will have 6 unit nanosatellites built by the company Open Cosmos. We'll offer Earth observation services that will enable images to be obtained from the space in different spectral bands. In that case, the applications will be forest fire prevention and detection, most efficient water management. We know that we will never be a big player in the space race. That's impossible. We are a small territory. But we can be a hub of innovation, and we already have some results. We have more than 30 emerging companies in these sectors. Some are world leaders, as Open Cosmos, Sateliot, Pangea, or Zero to Infinity. They are leaders in the nanosatellites technology. We also have 13 leading research and innovation centers and a business incubator of the European Space Agency. All these strategies and projects, blockchains, 5G, space, have been possible thanks to the work of many people, companies, and entities. We firmly believe in collaboration and teamwork, not only within our territory, but also internationally. Hopefully, soon we will find a common project within Catalonia and Hangzhou, in which we will work together. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope next time I will be able to travel to China and meet you in person. 谢谢。
Thank you very much, Carlos Gomala. He has talked about the blockchain strategies and the related technologies such as the satellite and the 5G in Catalonia, in particular Barcelona. Now the IoT technology has been applied in different walks of life, including those wearable equipment to other data collection equipment. Now we have invited Thomas Lynch, Chief Executive of Security and Technology, OMDIA, who is the expert in terms of the blockchain and 5G technologies. So we're going to listen to his speech through a video.
Hello, my name is Thomas Lynch, and I am the Executive Director of Market Intelligence and Research at OMDIA, part of the Informa Group. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the development of the Internet of Things. And in doing so, I'll be able to share with you an overview of the global IoT market collected by our string of global data analysts across multiple different disciplines. I will talk about the voice, really, from the end users, collected through our various research methodologies, including surveys and primary research, and also really our conclusions as to what the future trends for the IoT market globally will be. So let me start with the overview of what really is IoT. We know that the proliferation of IoT is significant. And by this, we mean that already in 2022, there's 8.2 billion devices recognized as endpoints in the world. By 2030, within 8 years, we expect this number to more than double, and there'll be close to 20 billion devices. Now, we measure this in terms of automotive and transportation, so those used to support those industries, commercial and industrial electronics, communications endpoints, computers, anything really connected to the consumer market that you might utilize and have access to, and medical. And remember, all of this by definition means that this IoT device needs to be connected to a network somewhere. So I mentioned about the requirement for IoT is that this is connected, and the complexity of those connections continues to grow. There's a lot of application. This can be in the smart home, across the travel industry, hopefully post-COVID that picks up, the medical and the wearables. Now, medical and wearables is very interesting because this is a trend that we're seeing combined come together, and there'll be an increase in technology to support that. Of course, smart city, safe city, security, transportation. We're seeing a lot of end user, end capability in these domains by pulling together larger industries into platforms and then providing a total system, be it on the cloud or be it through clever technologies such as AI, utilize the edge technology and the endpoint IoT devices. And of course, our environmental protection, sustainability is a big topic right now. And the Internet of Vehicles. We will see an increase in hybrid cars, driverless vehicles, and those are endpoints in themselves. And of course, industrial internet. And we're seeing an increase in sophisticated robot technology in logistics. We're seeing a transformation in the communications protocols. So Wi-Fi, of course, Bluetooth, Zigbee, NFC, but we're seeing LTE, 5G. There will be 6G down the road, of course, narrowband IoT, and LoRa, Ethernet, even legacy communications. And what are we doing here? Well, actually, it's a combination of all the senses: visible light, millimeter wave, infrared, X-ray. It's actually all the senses that you can think of: sound, temperature, humidity, etc. So where are these devices shipped? Actually, in most technology use cases, you will find an evenly split geographic segmentation between the Americas, the EMEA, and Asia. Normally say 33% around. But in this instance, we're seeing that in Asia, and especially in China, we're seeing a significant increase in the utilization of these different communications protocols to connect IoT devices across the different industries. So Asia is a dominant market, and a market where we're seeing significant progress. It may be because in Asia, there's a lot of new projects and less updated projects. A little bit about the voice from end users. So we talk about digital transformation, and that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. But IoT is really core to this, because the end user application that your digital transformation is there to achieve is really an IoT device. And we wanted to understand how close our end users understood that IoT was important. And we wanted to understand of how this affects their overall strategy. When asked, our 490 end users across significant markets that I mentioned before, 41% confirmed that this is core to their strategic development on digital transformation, and that IoT is an area of direct focus. Another 49% indicated that this was pretty broad, and they're planning to utilize the IoT departments across the domains and different products. But they did suggest that maybe they're already utilizing IoT in a large part, and that it might not change their direct business operations. And then there was a group of about 10% that indicated that IoT is mainly important for one or two departments and types of process and logistical geographic areas. So this would be someone that has a maybe large organization, but the IoT endpoint is really just a smaller part of the overall picture to those guys. However, enterprises are gaining value. They're seeing the benefit in IoT, and with new developments in edge technology, being able to apply intelligence through AI to edge, IoT devices have become a lot more interesting and valuable. And this question really was to the same group of end users as to which best characterizes the value. Where do they see the value fundamentally for the IoT projects they have in place? And how does this value contribute? So we asked, how is your confidence in IoT in recent years? And a significant amount either indicated that it had increased or stayed the same. There was some that might have suggested that there was a slight decrease, but the majority indicated, and the highest amount, almost 60%, said by utilizing IoT, their confidence and their business value had increased. Furthermore, they indicated that their IoT projects had exceeded the value that they were expecting them to deliver. Now, this is significant because, as you remember, IoT devices will more than double over the next 8 years. And this is one of the reasons why, because end users of such equipment are truly starting to perceive and see the value. Investment will grow, of course. We've seen the numbers. So it totally makes sense that the organizations need to increase their budget to fit their requirements and to achieve the value gains by implementing IoT. And we asked, how do you expect your IoT to budget change in the next 12 months? And more than 50% really said up to 25% increases. So between 5 and 25, and the largest amount was actually more than 25% budget increase to spend on IoT, which is, if you're interested and your organization provides either IoT solutions or the ICT behind or the connectivity, then this number is quite interesting to you. And we asked also, where are you in your current stage of IoT development? Are you in the planning stage? Are you in the trial stage? Or are you actively engaged in IoT deployments today? And nearly half, 43%, said we are actively engaged in IoT. Others indicated a fairly large amount, 36.5%, that they were in a trial stage, but that trial stage would soon become active. I mentioned previously about cloud, and that cloud hyperscalers actually are becoming a significant factor in the market. We asked, where do you get your cloud services and how do you plan to continue to do so? In asking the question of where do you currently utilize and who is your main provider of IoT solutions, it's quite clear that the internet cloud service providers are dominant, and they at the moment, and they continue to grow, have about a 26% market share. Now, some have dedicated IoT hardware providers, some have communication service providers, and some might actually have their own capability or be working through a large system integrator in country that can implement and manage that particular service for you. The smaller amount was really on the developer side. I would say this is more on the trial stage that I mentioned before. But as I mentioned, the hyperscalers are becoming significantly important, and it feels from the responses that we gained that actually it's not a single source solution. So not one size fits all. It may be that you might utilize different providers for different parts of the service. So moving IoT into focus, ultimately, we discussed what this means to you and when are you planning to utilize this? So if we spoke about deployment strategies for IoT in particular, it's quite clear that the real-time analytics and delivery insights is a priority. We are either using that for advanced IoT, or this is something that we need to be able to categorize this data, pull it together, make it intelligent, and be able to utilize it for the value benefit for the future. There was also a discussion around multi-cloud infrastructure, and security and redundancy requirements is quite important as well. I mentioned about intelligence at the edge. And what this means is having machine learning, AI, capability delivered to the IoT network through edge technology, and then collecting and analyzing that data. Of course, 5G is very important in terms of the connectivity, and that provides redundancy and security at the same time. There are other parts that others are focusing on, but it's worth talking about open APIs and the importance of this when developing and introducing IoT networks and capability. And this is a priority for the future. IoT is really a significant part of our future development in digital transformation, as I previously discussed. And in doing so, we need to consider our sustainability goals. We need to ensure that our deployments are considering the requirements of what sustainability needs from us and what technology we are utilizing to provide either the platforms, the connectivity, or even power the devices at the end of the deployment line. So we asked our audience, what do you feel is the important part for your development? And people spoke about technology advancement, about 5G and edge computing and ensuring that's efficient, that they wanted to meet the regularity and the tax and governance through various different mandates, and they were very open, actively open, deploying new structures, new teams to focus just on sustainability. Of course, climate change is a big part of this, and we know globally this is a mega subject right now. And of course, the G20 through global politics, and of course we have an energy crisis. So this really puts this at the front of the topic agenda. So I'd like to really summarize and provide you with some information around what IoT really is and what are the trends to look out for and what really matters. I mentioned at length the edge and endpoint AI technology. This is significant because this is going to drive business value and government value also. I mentioned about the requirements to manage such large data pools really needs a cloud capability, and we're seeing hyperscale capability delivered through multiple channels from service providers right through to developers. Digital twins is a trend, and this allows you to assess and basically build out the most efficient network. I mentioned about AIoT and advanced and how this really pulls together the importance of the significant benefits of across the different industries, including automotive, for example. Sustainability is definitely something that everybody must consider, especially in their digital transformation journey. And of course, rapid digitalization, this AI technology that's becoming ever increasing more part of our day-to-day life and activity really needs to have a level of significant capability to manage this. And of course, in developing new skills, we have economic challenges to implement in such projects, and we need to overcome those as a world, as a global entity. And how is all this delivered? Well, through secure networks, through private networks, and through 5G by service providers. I mentioned before, the edge gets sharper. The edge is really the driver for the next generation of IoT. And the current AI capability is really increasing to the level that it's able to provide capability through the next generation of sensors, MCUs, and basically have this almost a standard fit. And what we asked is, what is the revenues? And we measured this internally across all the different industries from 2021 to 2026. And it's significant. It's growing from 29 billion to 54 billion USD in terms of the revenues generated just on the endpoint. And we need gateways also to cope with this. We need chipsets, and we need the whole ecosystem to be able to deliver the network capability to best utilize this capability. And we're seeing a lot of interest in new technology to be able to deliver that. And of course, it needs to be smarter. And we're seeing processor capability increase significantly, and the market demand and the value driven through these processors is increasing at double-digit 21% of IoT IC value, which will grow and will be 33%, not even by 2030, but actually by 2026. Now, all of this comes together with convergence. And this is the whole ecosystem, the intelligence of the IoT, the Internet of Intelligent Things. And while the ingestion of IoT data can be leveraged by AI, and this means AI can do clever things, we are still at the beginning of the journey, and we need to develop a deeper insight into what capability we can derive. And remember that business value we spoke about, that organizations are already perceiving, can now be delivered, and we need to assess further how we can better drive that capability to deliver IoT global value. More input, more intelligence, better outcomes. That concludes my presentation. Thanks again for listening. I'm sure the team will share my details, and I would certainly welcome any questions from the audience. My name is Thomas Lynch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. Excellent speech. So he shared with us the IoT technology and some other technologies, what are the applications and the different scenarios. And for the future, based on IoT technology, what are the trends? So next speaker is IET China Director, Paulo Lopez. So he will talk with us how to engineer a better world. Let's welcome.
大家好. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paulo. I'm the China country head at the IET, the Institution of Engineering and Technology, and it's a real pleasure to be here today at the Global Digital Trade Expo by the Zhejiang Digital Forum. So today I'll be speaking about how to engineer a better world, and I'll be mainly focusing on 6G technology and its impact on the world and about the latest developments. And then I'll speak a little bit about what we do at the IET and more specifically in China. So looking very briefly at the IET, so we are a 150-year-old organization, and our mission is about working to engineer a better world. So with this in mind, we are what we do is about inspiring, informing, influencing the global engineering community to support technology innovation and meet the needs of the society. And with this in mind, we've we wrote a new report that was launched about a year ago for 6G technology. So this is something that is not is still at the research stage at the moment, but it's important to understand what is it, its potential impact on the society. And this report specifically is about helping policymakers, government and institutions from all around the world to understand a bit better how to prepare themselves to manage 6G technology properly. So let's start from the beginning. What is 6G? Well, 6G is the next generation of mobile network. We're currently using 5G technology, and 6G will be around 2030. It's about 10 times faster than current 5G technology, and we expect to reach around 1 terabyte per second, and with a very small latency of 0.1 milliseconds. And what's unique about it is that it will be AI optimized as well. So if you look more generally about this 6G, we can look about the speed, latency, and more density as well for the technology, which can help then to link to all the global challenges that we face today, enabling to find new solutions and developing new ideas and new options. Looking specifically at the scope of 6G, what we are promoting and what we're advancing is to ensure that there is a global consensus. Is really needed to develop this and ensuring that there's an inclusion from all the different stakeholders, from all the different parts of the society and all around the world to ensure that discussions can happen freely and all the needs from everyone are taken into account. This coordinated action will help to create a common standard, which is something that we advocate to ensure that any new 6G technology can be available to everyone, everywhere, at any time. So it's important for the network to have three essential characteristics. One is to be inclusive, open, and global. We need to understand that 6G technology will have a very deep impact on our society. It will be able to combine the digital world, the physical world, and also the biological world, connecting everything together in a very seamless way. We can think about new possibilities about 6G, from not only virtual reality and augmented reality, but also high fidelity holograms, providing true immersive experience. Digital twins or metaverse will be big winners of the 6G technology. The Internet of Things combined with real-time AI will allow seamless connections between maritime, aviation, terrestrial, and space applications. With a deep impact on smart cities, autonomous transportation, brain-to-computer connectivity, healthcare, as well as security based on quantum mechanics. Sustainability will play a big part around 6G, as it requires less power to run, and it enables more efficiency and higher productivity produced by the new technologies. It will provide additional solutions to reduce the impact on climate change. And essentially what will happen is that we'll be moving from a communications infrastructure to a social infrastructure, which will be a game changer on the way we work in the future. So looking at the different aspects of the impact, we'll see at the top 4D video, digital transportation, teleportation, making invisible things visible, enhanced edge to user environment. We will see a direct satellite to user through beamforming satellites, large intelligent surfaces, coverage innovations, so new services can reach anyone and anywhere. As AI and quantum, super fine time synchronization, ultra high accuracy geolocation, and finally a multidisciplinary research into key enabling technologies. We're looking at new materials, synthetic biology. All this will be enabled once 6G will be available, and this is combined with all the development in computer capacity and the microprocessor capacity. Looking at the timeline for 6G, so right now we're in full development all around the world for 5G. We know that China is extremely advanced on that. Europe and the US are getting full coverage as well many other parts of the world. Currently, there is research happening around 6G. I'll share in a second about some of the major research happening around the world. But this is where we're right now. And we expect new standards and developments to start from 2025 onwards, so in 2 or 3 years. And finally, by the end of the decade, we'll expect the first technologies to be able to be implemented globally. So we'll see, like, throughout the 2030, a full implementation of the technology. So looking about the latest developments, so China is definitely leading the way. Already launched experimental satellites into orbit in 2020. It holds 35% of the 38,000 patents related to 6G. There's a lot of research from universities in China and private companies, especially Huawei and other companies investing heavily into 6G research. At the same time, in Europe, there's a big advancements happening in Europe as well. So European governments are opening research centers all around Europe. Nokia and Ericsson are also very big players in this telecommunication infrastructure field. They're investing heavily into this. Just a few weeks ago, Ericsson announced a multi-million pound investment in the UK as a new research center for 6G technology. So we should expect to see a lot of research happening also from Europe. The US also quite advanced in this field as well. It currently holds 18% of the patents related to 6G. But the US takes a slightly different approach to this. It is more private sector led, while the government give a background support. Although we might see this change with the new recent policies from the US. And it wouldn't surprise me if we expect a more active role from the government to push towards 6G technology. These are not the only places where research is happening, especially in other places in Asia, like in Japan, South Korea, India, and many other countries around the world, are also starting to invest in this, and some parts are more advanced than the others. But it's really exciting to see the amount of money invested in this field and the potential impact into our societies later on. So as a company and as a business, it's really important to understand this now, so we can already start to develop new strategies and position ourselves properly into the market to take advantage and be in the leading front of this new opportunity. But of course, there are many challenges that come with this, and this is why in our report we really want to address those challenges, to share it with everyone, so we can start to take them one by one and hopefully find good solutions for them. So the first one is about standards body modernization. It's extremely important that 6G will include more and more industries and countries with very different standards and cultures. While in the past, perhaps a lot of the technology was developed by and pushed by the West and also some Asian countries as well. But now we'll see more, as I mentioned before, more development in very different parts of the world. So therefore, how can we ensure that everybody's interests are defended and are taken into account while developing those new standards? Another one is around trust and security. There are deep challenges around the need for various distributed AI locations to work both vertically and horizontally across many commercial boundaries and jurisdictions. You know, again, like we see a lot of decoupling happening at the moment that may impact on the trust and security. There's a tendency for now countries to ensure that all the data stays in the country and is not shared cross-border. This is a trend that is happening, and we expect this to continue for the coming future. But this will also have a tremendous impact on how this will be managed, especially when 6G will come on board, and where 6G will actually help to break down barriers of connectivity. Another one is around a regulatory framework for 6G. So the mobile industry has been developing for decades now, and from 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, there's been different ways and different approaches where regulatory framework was created. Some of them, they created some different standards around the world, different ways to manage and to build a legal framework around it, which meant that it was extremely difficult for products and services to be able to move freely between countries. With 5G technology, what was very interesting is that those standards and those frameworks were actually ensured to be written with a global mindset. So meaning that now it's much easier for products and services to be able to move freely around the world from a technological perspective. There's still other political barriers and trade barriers that exist. But from a technological perspective, that was very interesting that happens. And what's really, what we really want at the IET, and we raise our voice for this, is to ensure that the same happens for 6G. And for this, how can we ensure that regulatory bodies ensure the technologies developed by so many different stakeholders, including balancing dominant players in different jurisdictions, are in sync with the regulatory bodies? So this is something that only communication and discussion and open-mindedness will help to achieve this. And finally, of course, geopolitical challenges for 6G. In the last few years, and especially in the last few months, we've seen an increase in geopolitical challenges, which mean that we're going to see more and more decoupling happening around the world, where different countries, or at least different regions, may operate differently, following their own interests rather than a global interest. This will bring a tremendous challenge for 6G. The 6G will have so many benefits for the society that if we create barriers that stop it from being used globally and seamlessly and at a reasonable cost, this will deeply impact our ability to develop our society to the next level and to really benefit from all the technological developments and possibilities that 6G can bring. And of course, the role of engineers in all this is crucial, right? So for us at the IT, we care deeply about the engineers, and you know, and this is why we work very deeply with them on all different functions to help them to ensure they understand about 5G and 6G technology. There will be a key to develop those new technologies and to deploy them globally. This is why we are focusing highly on giving access to journals and news and information about this, helping them with professional qualification and finding opportunities to develop everyone. So now I'll go very quickly about who we are at the IT and what we do. So what we do is about we do many things, but in China specifically, we are looking at professional registration and qualification, about accreditation of university degrees, on knowledge solutions, publishing of journals and books, training, networking, awards and scholarships, and membership. We have many partners in China, especially associations such as CAST and CIC and CICE and many others. We work very closely with Chinese universities as well, such as Tsinghua University, Beijing University Post of Telecommunications, and others. And we also have many corporate partners that are global organizations, and we really hope and are very keen to get Chinese companies also to join us to become a corporate partner. We organize many international awards. These are open for anybody, anywhere in the world. Either students, PhD researchers, or researchers in institutions. And we have also different sort of awards. Around 8.6 million RMB per year is awarded to people. On professional registration, we are licensed to award the Chartered Engineer title, where we assess the capacities and abilities of engineers and give them a title that is recognized in more than 40 countries. It is also provide benefits in Beijing and in Shanghai. And hopefully next year in other cities also will accept this as a recognized qualification. And what's interesting about it is that we look at the hard skill and soft skills of engineers to assess them. So not only the deep knowledge and hard knowledge they may have, but also the soft skills on leadership, communication, and ethics. So as you can see, we organize many trainings here around the country, and we will see also some the certification that we give to engineers as a qualification. We publish around 44 journals about very different topics. We constantly launch new journals, and we also actively invite researchers and PhD students to publish their papers in our journals. Accreditation of university degrees. So we are currently doing the accreditation of 6 university degrees on engineering topics, both at the bachelor and master level. We also have a full digital hub for digital research. We cover many topics. This is just one of them about digital. So if you would like free reading about information in this field, just feel free to go to our website and access it for free. And finally, we also have a software, a database analysis called InSpec. We have around 21 million records to be able to find the state-of-the-art research published around the world. And so feel free to also get in touch with us to access this new platform. So I would like to thank everyone for your time. I wish you a rest of a wonderful day and a great success for this wonderful event. Many thanks for the organizer for inviting me to speak today. And feel free to get in touch. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lopez. Wonderful speech. Now, I would like to conclude today's session, Digital Globalization. Thank you very much for all the speakers. Thank you.